gonna play a couple games, and then pick up our Monarch stuff as soon as it hits 12. We're not allowed to touch it beforehand. My boss has been like, no touching it beforehand, and we're like, all right. So we did that with Crucible of War, and we'll see how it goes.
That's so cool. And how many boxes are you getting?
So I'm getting a case. I'm only able to afford at the moment, and I'll only be picking up 2 because I need to save up a little bit more money for the others next week. But one of my coworkers is getting, how many is he getting? I think he's getting 2 cases actually.
Oh wow.
And then my other mate who used to work at the store, I think he's getting just 1 case as well. And we're also picking up the Blitz decks, and
Are you opening up all your boxes?
Yeah, I'm not sitting on anything.
Yeah.
I want to play with the cards, so.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I do have something to entice you, man. Like I was talking to Kale the other day, and he said he was opening all his boxes, and what is it? I remember a time in Welcome to Wrath when the booster box spiked, right? And people were trading booster boxes for actual like legendary cards. So I think I'm gonna try to do that route, man, because I really want the with the warrior boots. I just really like the art on those, and I think that
Those are
card's just
really
really overpowered. So so I mean, because I think the legendaries are like around 1200 now around us, but hopefully,
for the Monarch ones?
yeah.
Already, jeez. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because I know that's how much. I think when Crucible of War came out, I think the Arknight shard initially was going for something around that same price as well. But yeah, no, it's crazy how much the prices of Monarch stuff is at the moment. Like, I haven't even really looked at prices. I'm just like, I'll open my boxes and then assess what I've got and then take it from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's crazy that people are already setting prices and it hasn't fully come out yet. So,
Oh
that's
yeah.
just the way the market is. So,
And to how it is, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, let me just put it at like this insanely high value, and then we'll see if anybody bites." That's
yeah,
usually
and if
like the
not, you
best.
just pull it back and
Exactly. But yeah,
yeah.
man, this set is just absolutely nuts. Like I was telling you earlier, I went to like 3 pre-releases, and it was just crazy, man. It was just like back to back to back, and it was a ton of fun. Like and you said you had like a smaller one at your your local game store, right?
Yeah. So we just had 8 people.
Mhm.
Some of them weren't so much regulars; they were kind of semi-regulars, and then we had all of our regular crew come, which is including myself, about 5 people,
Mhm.
and us regular guys, we come to pretty much every event. So yeah, we all came down, cracked open our packs. We only got 1 legendary out of all our packs. One of my mates, Callan, who I'm going to see tonight to pick up the boxes with. He ended up getting the Phantasmal Footsteps, which is the one legendary I really wanted because I really want to play
Oh.
Illusionist. And I was like, oh man, dude, like I could have had those packs because I was the one giving out the packs to everyone. And if I had just, if the chances would have happened and I had given those pile of boosters to myself, I would have gotten them, but it's the way it is. So
Yeah.
I got a couple. How many did I get? I got 2 Majestics. I don't think I played with any of them. What were they?
Oh, really?
No, I did play with one of them. I got Exude Confidence, which is actually really good.
Which one's that?
Um, so that one is a 0 cost red pitch 4 attack card. I think it might block for only 2,
Mhm.
but for as long as the card itself isn't defended by an attack action card that has more power than it, the opponent can't play any instance or defense reactions to the entire combat chain. And then as an instant, you can pitch for 3 and give it +2 power.
Oh,
Um,
that
it,
card is absolutely crazy.
it was really good. I ended up killing someone when they didn't realize that like I could just buff it. And just I pitched like 3 cards in my hand to buff it twice because you can do it as many times on a turn as you want because it doesn't have any limit. So
Yeah.
I've turned it from a 4 attack to an 8, and I just wiped him out with it. So that one was really good. And then the other one I got was Shadow of Ursa, but I didn't end up playing that because I wasn't playing Runeblade. I ended up playing Brute. Against my own wishes. I didn't want to have to play Brute, but that's the way my card pool went. So
That's cool,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, Exude Confidence, I think, is one of the best Majestics in the set, too. Like,
Oh, it's really good. I'm probably gonna run it in, like, some aggro decks for sure, so
yeah, there's just that other one that's like a Command and Conquer. It's like it comes in for 6 attack, and if it, I think if it hits, you get +1 intellect or something. No, no, no. If it's the only if your graveyard doesn't have attack action cards, and you
yeah,
get
yeah.
yeah,
It
that
gets dominate, and then if it hits, you get +1 intellect. Nourishing Emptiness is what it's called.
yes, that card seems insane too.
That's bonkers, like, especially if you put that in a deck where you're only really using weapons like Dorinthia, for example.
Hmm.
You chuck that in, and you're almost guaranteed that the first time you play it, it's going to have dominate, and then if it hits, you get an extra intellect. Yeah, I could see a lot of play with that card. That card's bonkers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my buddy Rob from Tolarian Dropouts, I was talking to him when we were had the sealed event, and I got one. I got like a rainbow foiled nourish
Oh
emptiness.
man.
Yeah, it's a beautiful card too. And what is it? He said he wanted what is it? A play set in his Dorinthia deck because yeah, turn one, if you can get that thing off, then turn two,
Mm,
you're literally coming in with like a card in arsenal and 5 cards in hand
yeah.
with Dorinthia. That's game. I mean, what are you gonna do
Mm,
against that?
it's very good, yeah.
Yeah.
But I did notice someone posted it. I think it might have been on one of the Facebook groups. They posted the artwork for the card, and in the background, there's like a bunch of scrolls, like wall scrolls, sort of a little bit like what you've got in your background. And on it has artwork that seemingly depicts some of the heroes that we've already seen, like Dorinthia, but she's being impaled by like a spear, or like I
Oh.
think Ira's being stabbed in the back by a sword. I think there's Bravo in there possibly. It's really hard to see the artwork because
Hmm.
we don't have the full resolution yet. But once we get the playmats out there for the calling event, then we'll be able to have a look at it closer. But I think there's some lore implications in that card. So
That's really cool. And that card, it seemed very Japanese. So it seemed like
mm,
it was in like the realm of Mysteria, right? Like do you think
yeah,
it
definitely.
that's really
So
interesting. Like it has like the heroes like being like killed or wow, huh.
yeah, it almost shows like it's almost like future telling in a way, like prophecy. Like um I think if I'm remembering it correctly, I think the Ira one, she is being stabbed in the back,
Hmm.
which that could sort of mean something to do with her brother Jin, who didn't want to have anything to do with the Crimson Haze, rebels and whatnot.
Hmm.
Maybe stabbing her in the back, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm not certain about with that card, and it's only really something that you can just theorize about because there's not really any hints anywhere else that tell you exactly what any of that could mean. You just all you can do is just speculate, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's where we're at the moment with a lot of the lore, especially after everything's dropped with Monarch. We go, all right, all this stuff has happened. That's really cool, but what's next? And we don't really have, at least any that we know of, any contextual clues to sort of point us in a certain direction to say, oh, this is probably going to happen or this is going to happen. Because leading into Monarch, we knew it was going to be all about light versus shadow,
Hmm.
stuff with the demon mastery, the portal being created, Solana being attacked, etc., etc. But now with Monarch, it's like, where do we go from here? And there's just a bunch of question marks that even I don't think I know the answer to. So,
Isn't that funny too, man? Because it's like we're like, oh, Monarch is coming out. Oh, now all of our answers are gonna be revealed. We're gonna understand so much more. But I have so many more questions now. Like it really didn't
mm,
answer too many things, and I guess it's because the lore book hasn't come out. And I would
yeah,
imagine it would have come out for pre-release season, or maybe they're waiting for release week. What do you think on that? Like, are we gonna get a book soon? I want a book.
I I think with the way that they were designing the first couple sets of Flesh and Blood, James White has obviously talked about how it's like a complete package. It's what the game was like originally intended to be. It's how it was originally designed.
Hmm.
So I think the first lore book was meant to encapsulate everything that happens up to Monarch and all the different regions that are involved. I think if we're going to get a second lore book, which is almost guaranteed at this point, it's been so
Yeah.
popular, these lore books, that they have to just print like
When the
more.
first one's called Volume 1, so it's like
Yeah, exactly. So I think if we're going to get a second one, I think it's going to be tied to the release of Kingdoms, I
Mm.
reckon. Because that almost seems like, I've heard before because I was actually re-listening to our previous episode earlier today just to sort of get in the mood for this one. And I remember you mentioned something about anime and how you used to create like anime music videos. And to
Yep.
use sort of like an anime term, I feel like this is like the next arc of the story. You've got like season 1, which is like everything up to Monarch, and then season 2 starts with Kingdoms. That's what I kind of get the gist of, or at least how like the game mechanics and whatnot has been fleshed out to the point where the core is there, and now everything else is just like extra icing on the cake, pretty much. So,
Yeah, that's a good term, arc. Yeah. Yeah, because at the
mm,
beginning, it's like, I guess, where they're just introducing, well, or the land of Wraith and everything that happened. But
mm,
this is like a big thing where, you know, uh, I guess the dark forces are coming out and attacking Solana and all that stuff. And this is like the
mm.
first arc. And then, like, I guess we're gonna get the lore book of that arc, and maybe that's how they're structuring their books.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
because if they were to sort of follow the current sort of layout of the law books, I don't know if it would make too much sense because realistically, in the first law book, they've covered most of the like world of Wraith itself. They've told you about the regions, the heroes. They didn't dive too deep into like the Arcane Rising stuff, but for the most part, they've kind of told most of like the groundwork for Wraith.
Mm,
So I think in Kingdoms, if they were to release a lore book, they would have to have probably some sort of expansion that dives a little bit deeper into maybe existing areas, but then also give us information about new places that the story is going to explore. So whether that's more information on, I don't know how you pronounce it, Iorathiel. I'm going to say Iorathiel. That kind of
either
sounds
way, both of those.
yeah, the dark dimension. Let's call it that.
Yep.
Whether or not they expand on that and some of the places in that place, maybe they'll expand on like the Northern Realms, which, from what I understand, are sort of like an expansion of Solana. So they're still sort of under the overall almost like city state of Solana, but still sort of separate because that's where Bolton comes from. That's also where it seems to have been shown, or at least the information I got sent for my spoiler video. Apparently, Lord Sutcliffe is from the Northern Realms. So maybe they'll expand on things like that, or just like smaller sub-regions, I guess, that will become more important to the story as we go on. Because if you look at the world map, there's like a bunch of extra symbols and stuff
Oh yeah, that we
for
don't even
areas
know.
that we don't even know. There's like a big whirlpool to like the northwest on the map in the ocean,
Yes,
and then
it's
there's
like
like this
teeth
tar
around it.
pit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who knows?
So
There's a lot of places they can go.
Where's Sutcliffe from? The northern realms of like Volcor or Solana?
The Northern Realms, and they are, from what I understand, connected to Solana.
Gotcha.
So they're it seems like Solana is not only a city, but almost like a state.
Hmm.
So you would have extra villages on the outskirts of Solana that are under the control of the Solanian government, or whatever system they've got. I guess monarchy. But yeah, the Northern Realm seems to be connected in some sort of way because through a lot of Bolton's lore and some of the lore I got for Sutcliffe, it sounds as if it all sort of ties together. So
That sounds really cool. And so
yeah.
Sutcliffe, man, like I'm trying to understand what was happening with him at the end because I know in the
Mm,
beginning of his life he was always angsty because he couldn't like do magic like all the other wizards,
yeah.
and then he lived like a miserable life until he's like, you know what, I'm gonna make like a powerful like you know ally that I can control and who can
Mm,
like fight my battles for me, which is Viserai, and then so he
mm.
made him. And then Viserai's like, "You know what? I don't like you either," and he killed him. But then what happened
Yeah.
after that?
Um, so essentially, after Viserai killed Sutcliffe, um, when Sutcliffe's body was on the ground and his head had been cut off, some strange creature, I don't know exactly what the creature is. It could have been this creature called Mortis, which Viserai has actually battled beforehand in his like backstory that you can read on the official website.
Mhm.
It might have been that creature, I don't know, but essentially this creature takes Lord Sutcliffe's head, and then something happens where Sutcliffe's head is preserved with some sort of magic. There's like magical runes that are inscribed on, I think, his skin and flesh. He has like these wrappings with like runes on them, and it basically keeps his head semi alive, but it's more so keeping his consciousness alive. So
Mm.
he's actually able to communicate. We don't quite know how he does that, whether it's through like telepathy or he can just speak as like a disembodied voice. But he's essentially taken by the disciples of pain, and they just question him. They ask him all this information about what is it you know, what was all your research about, things of that nature, and it's basically torment for Sutcliffe because he can't do anything. He's just a head,
Yeah.
and he's being carried around by all these people who are like, "Yo, what were you up to on this day?" Or like, "What's this thing do?" And just bothering him with questions and whatnot. So that's currently where he's at. In one of the story articles that we got, which features Levia, she ends up finding Sutcliffe's head. I
Hmm.
think it was attached to one of these creatures, and she sort of pulls it free, and then she starts carrying around Sutcliffe's head with her. Um,
Oh,
and
so
then she ends up
she
meeting
was
up with
mentored.
Chain.
She was mentored by Sutcliffe, I guess. Like that was her mentor.
Um, Not quite. I think she just sort of found it and realized that he was a valuable source of information,
Hmm.
and then was like, "All right, cool, you can help me. You're coming with me." So just sort of unwillingly dragged Sutcliffe around with her, and then obviously she met up with Chain, and then they started to form some sort of alliance. And Chain obviously knew Sutcliffe because Chain was part of the Disciples of Pain, and they were doing a bunch of research at the Demonastery, and they were connected to the portal and all this sort of stuff. So it's all sort of neatly tied in together, like all these individuals that were doing their own research in the Demonastery have all sort of come together for a common goal. So
That's cool.
that's kind of where we're at.
I didn't know that they knew each other. And it's funny because Olivia, it's like, I never had a dad. You'll do. Grab.
Yeah, because her dad was gone all the time. I think
Exactly. Yeah.
she was like very young when her dad disappeared, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy how it's all fleshed out there. And then, like, so this point in the story, like, what's weird is we can see like before and after of Solana, but we don't know for sure. Like, you know that one picture where there's this guy and he has a sword and he has white hair and everything's devastated? Is that Solana? You think? Like, do you think Solana is just like totally in ruins? Because I know in
Oh.
one of the pictures, right, one of the artworks, you can see the sigil of Solace, right? And there's like nothing. It's like barren wasteland all around it, which is crazy because if you look at the original like Sigil of Solace, there's all this like, lush, golden fields.
Mm.
So it really makes me wonder like, is Solana just completely wiped off the map in that picture? Or do you think it's still there and it's like just really highly damaged? Or because that's what I was
So
trying to figure out.
I think the artwork that you're referring to, if I'm correctly, is Rising Solartide. It has like that guy with white hair who's kind of
Yeah.
got his back to the camera, and there's a bunch of soldiers behind him, and all in front of him is just devastated. Is that the one?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I think we haven't really gotten any solid information as to the state of Solana at the moment. I have a feeling that Monarch is just the beginning of the battle.
Mm,
I feel like a lot of us were probably expecting, myself included, that Monarch was going to completely contain information about like the entire battle between light and shadow. But because we haven't gotten that much information about Solana's current state, we don't know about movements of like any forces. We haven't gotten any information as to people like Levia or Chain leaving the Demonastery and actually attacking Solana, even though they talk about it. I just kind of feel like everything's kind of the beginning of the battle, and maybe Kingdoms would like further elaborate on that. So I
yeah.
think Solana's definitely under attack, but it's under attack in this point of the story, and we just have to kind of find out what's going to happen. So
Yeah, and you know what's an interesting thing that just hit my mind is if there is a dark dimension, Do you think there's a light dimension that we don't have visual, like, seeings of yet? Because it
Yeah.
seems like from what is happening in the card art is that the people came from the dark dimension, and they were just wreaking havoc on Solana and wreaking havoc all around, Wraith.
Mm.
And then it seems like the light forces with that artwork we just talked about, seems like they came a little late to the party. Like, it seems
It's
like
like,
they
"Hey, guys,
came.
let's go." Oh, man.
Oh,
It's like, that gif of Donald Glover from, Community where he walks into the party, he's like, "Hey, guys, I got pizza," and there's just fire everywhere.
yeah, exactly.
So, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, "I thought we were
Um,
meeting at 10 o'clock. Oh, whoops."
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you actually mention a light dimension because that was actually something I was gonna talk about.
Oh,
So
nice.
I haven't fully looked into this part of the lore. It's mostly in Prism's backstory,
Mhm,
but there is apparently a stained glass window in the Library of Illumination in Solana,
mhm,
and that gives me very similar vibes to the stained glass window that was in the Demon Astery that turned into a portal to the Dark Dimension. So I've had this
mm,
theory about the what the name of the next set kingdoms actually means. In real life, whenever people talk about a kingdom, many people talk about, in a religious sense, the kingdom of heaven,
mhm.
which, if you think about it, it's almost like, it's a realm of light and purity. So my thought is perhaps kingdom alludes to some sort of kingdom of heaven type space, the
Oh,
light reflection of Wraith instead of the dark reflection. And the stained glass portal in the Library of Illumination is able to be turned into a portal to this dimension in the same way that the stained glass window in the Demon Astery was turned into a portal to the dark dimension. So whether or not that is what's going to happen in Kingdoms, I'm not certain, but it's definitely a theory I've got. Um, the only thing that kind of stops me from believing that is gameplay wise and the mechanics of the gameplay. I don't know if they were to make Kingdoms a set that focuses on like a light dimension, that kind of speaks to me that if you're going to do something like that, you would want to include light talent cards.
mm,
But they've only just introduced light talent cards, and I don't know if they would have another set in a row where they sort of further build on it. I feel like they would give it some space and try and discover or at least show us the different talents that we will get
yeah,
from
like
other
other
regions,
regions,
like
yeah.
Mysteria and Aria and whatnot. So whether or not it's got anything to do with the next set possibly having light cards, I don't know. But I'm not putting all my money on it. It's just I know it's a fun theory I like to have that
Y
if there's gonna be a dark reflection of Wraith, there's gotta be a light reflection, you know?
Exactly, well, there yeah, I would imagine too, and honestly, on the back of a car on the cards, right? Maybe that's what, like, the bottom and the top circle are, like, the bottom circle is the demonastery or is the dark dimension, and the top is the light dimension or something, and the
Mm.
middle is the land of Wraith or something. It's just something but like you said, it's fun to just think about theories 'cause we aren't told exactly what things are, and my theory for kingdoms is I think that everyone is going to flee the city and go to Mysteria. I think it's going to be Mysteria versus some other region. But
Mm.
I I I don't know if that's 100% true, but uh, there it's hard to like pinpoint exactly why I believe that, but uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's,
that's where I'm at.
that's just where they've kind of left the story at the moment. We really don't have many contextual clues, and I've had a feeling that maybe with the release of Monarch happening, well, tomorrow for me. Oh, it would be tomorrow for you as well.
Yep.
Um, they may in the next week or so release one final story article, and I feel like that would tie together the events of Monarch and
Mhm.
also tease Kingdoms because it was like I think it was the week after Crucible of War released. They ended up putting up the teaser for Monarch. So I feel like they would kind of do that to continue the hype for the next set. I feel like it would be kind of a missed opportunity if they just sort of was like, "Oh yeah, here's Monarch,"
Yeah. All right,
and then
you
just
were
said
done.
nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like they like to keep the hype train going. So I feel like we're gonna get some sort of teaser for Kingdom. Whether or not that's a full story article, I don't know, but I know with Arcane Rising, they had at the end of Viscerai's backstory, they had to be continued written, and then the story continued in Crucible of War. And then after the portal was opened in that article, they had to be continued in March of 2021, which ended up being Monarch. So I feel like they're going to do the same thing again. They're not just going to leave the story where it is per se. So
Yeah. Yeah, and overall, man, it just seems like a really, really drawn out story. It seems like they know what they're talking about, which is nice. It's nice to
oh
not
yeah.
be like they're just like on the seat of their pants, like, oh, let's put this in or let's put this in. It's no, they're like slowly dripping it out to us so we can figure it out over time. But overall, man, like when like let's go into pre-release, like I don't know about
Mm.
you, but when I opened my packs, man, it was just I was blown away by the card art. Like
Mm.
especially like I had seen all the previews, I watched, your preview video. I watched a lot of people's, opening or just showing the card art. But when I saw these cards, it was just so nice. I
Mm.
mean, it just blew me
It
away.
was it was a weird feeling. As I was opening up the cards, it was almost bittersweet opening up the
Yeah.
cards because it was sweet that I had these cards that I'd been sort of obsessing over and wondering what they could be for so long. But then the bitter part is like the hype of like the mystery of not knowing
Yep.
started to fade a little bit, but that's okay because like you get that with everything. And it kind of the hype slowly turns into appreciation of what is actually there.
Yeah.
So it was a very strange feeling. Yeah, it was very bittersweet, but in a good way. So it's kind of very hard to describe. It's very different to any pre-release I've ever been to, whether it's for Flesh and Blood or for like other games like Magic the Gathering. It's just different. It was very hard to pinpoint. I guess just because there was such a long time between Crucible of War and Monarch that we had so much time to like work ourselves up into a frenzy and just be like, we need spoilers right now. Give us the spoilers.
Yeah, right. I want to
Yeah.
know the next thing, please. Yeah, yeah. And like
Yeah, we were pretty much to quote a Flesh and Blood card, we were a ravenous rabble.
yeah.
So
Surging
mm,
militia. Yeah, no, I feel you. And over here at the States, like these preview cards would drop at like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And I would be on
mm.
like, Discords and people were like, oh, I guess I'm just waiting up for the next hour, waiting for that preview card.
Yeah, it was just one more spoiler. Just give me one more spoiler. So
Yeah.
it was something else spoiler season for Monarch. It was really good. It was just the community coming together just to, you know, get hyped up and
Nerd
excited
out.
for new cards. Yeah, just
Oh,
to
yeah.
nerd out. So it was really cool. I was always checking the Discord every morning. I'd wake up and I'd be like, all right, what new cards can I look at today and think about. So there wasn't a day that went by during spoiler season where I was not thinking about, oh, maybe if I put this card in that deck, or what could the next hero be? And
Oh,
it
yeah.
was yeah, it was everything I was expecting, but also everything I wasn't expecting. I expected it to be amazing and really blow me away, but I didn't expect it in this sort of way, especially with, shadow and light classes, and then an illusionist just appearing out of nowhere. I was like,
Oh,
what
yeah.
on earth's going on?
That really
So,
was a huge surprise, like, yeah, because
mm,
we had, like, the same, like, 3 heroes in a row that we already had, and we're like, "Oh, the last one's gonna be like that too," but then
mm.
bam, Illusionist, that was, like, a game
Yeah, we
changer.
were all guessing like, oh, if they're existing classes, but they're like light or shadow, then you know we probably won't get a new class in this set. So maybe the light one is going to be, a mage of some sort because we saw cards like Luminate, for example.
Yep.
We originally saw that artwork earlier than intended. I think someone had gone onto the website and found it somewhere in the code, and they found this artwork, and we're like, "Oh my god, is that like a cleric or something?" And we're all geeking out, like, "This must be a cleric." And then it just ended up being just artwork for a regular light card, just like that dwarf as well. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's got to be a guardian. He's got to be a
I
cleric or
isn't that
something."
crazy? Like, some of the epic artwork, people are, like, speculating, "Oh, it must be this," but in the end of it, it was like, "Oh, no, this is just a generic card."
Yeah. So that just goes to show you how I mean, they've even said it in articles that they posted on the website like a couple years back when they were talking about the card frames. And I read it just the other week. They were talking about how important it was that even though cards were generic,
Mhm.
they still needed to have like an importance, like a flavor. They're not just, oh, boring generics. They needed to represent all of Wraith as a whole.
Mm.
And I just love the fact that all this artwork that we saw, a vast majority of it was for like common cards, but they looked as if the artwork could have gone on like Majestics or something, you
Oh,
know?
for sure. Yeah, some of them
It's like this artwork has to be a Majestic or it has to be a hero or a legendary or something. No, it's just a common card.
yeah.
And that's great. They pay a lot of attention to all the cards, and it makes it so whenever I open a booster pack, even if all I get are just 2 rares and a bunch of commons, I'm still happy. The cards
Oh,
look
yeah.
cool, they're usable. You go and open up, like, a Magic the Gathering pack, and I immediately just flick to the rare and the
Yep.
foil, and that's it. I just like, "Oh, uncommons and commons? Yeah, you can go in a box and never to be looked at again," but Flesh and Blood, like, every single card I cherish, and that's something that is just so amazing. Like, it's baffling that they were able to make me feel that way about pieces of cardboard?
Oh, for sure, and not
So
not only the art, like, but mainly the art. The art is just beautiful on the common cards. Like even like the most common card has like really like epic artwork sometimes. Like, but
mm,
also the mechanics. I think the mechanics you might at first look at common cards and think, I don't know if this is really good. I can't see playing this. But then
mm,
I feel like as more cards come out in these sets, these old cards that you didn't think have like some good ability have some insane combo with like new stuff, and that's what I
mm,
think is beautiful. And especially like I got Rally the Rear Guard, and at first,
yes.
like for the preview card, it looks all right, but then when you've played with it, oh man, like I played some clutch games where people like played it against like a dominate effect that I had, and it totally negated it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, oh man, it's so clutch in certain situations. And there's
Mm,
what is it, some of those cards like Rise Above Red, like that was really good in this format for sealed. But
mm.
yeah, no, it's just cool to see how all the cards where at first you see it and you're like, ah, this is all right, but then you see it used in a really clutch moment, you're like, whoa,
Yeah,
that's how that card's
it
used.
it's basically the meat and potatoes of a deck.
Yeah.
And that's really good. Like, I can look at pretty much every card in Flesh and Blood. I think there's very little cards, like, maybe certain pitch values of cards, but
Yeah.
I can at least look at one pitch version or pitch value type of a card and think to myself, I could definitely play this in a deck somewhere.
Mhm.
It might not be the most efficient card, but it will definitely help me get towards the point that I want to go to. I have trouble thinking of a card in Flesh and Blood that I think is just absolutely garbage and should never be played. Like, some people were joking about the new Talisman of Dowsing,
Oh yeah.
which is like 2 pitch, an item. You play it for free, and it has Spell Void 1, and that's it. And it has Go Again, and that's it. And I'm like, even then, maybe in certain matchups, I'd put it in like a sideboard. There's
Oh
like
yeah.
so much flexibility in the cards, and it just makes it so you get so much bang for your buck whenever you open a booster pack. It's not just I'm
Yeah.
opening a pack for the chance of a rare or like a majestic. You're like opening a pack and you're getting the full suite of cards that you need. So,
Because I think they must have an Excel sheet, right, that has all of like the power, and if they're like, hey, if you're gonna do X, this is how much it
mm,
should cost and everything. Like Talisman of Dowsing, for instance, that's a great example. Like what you're doing in that scenario is you're moving a resource from one turn to the next. And
mm,
like the cost of doing that has to be, higher because it's like you're, moving it to the next turn. And usually with those types of effects, it's you don't have too many of those. I mean, with the potions, you have to lose a whole action point and like a
yeah,
whole turn to like put that down for the future. So it was cool how they had that card. And you're right, like it could come in clutch in certain like sideboards. I mean, 1 health is a lot. I mean, especially in Blitz. So
mm.
Yeah, man. It's crazy to see all these new things. And so with your preview card, I'm wondering, man, I was wondering, so when I create videos, it's only like, me talking to the screen for like 20 minutes.
Just a guy in
So
a room, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So like for my preview card, like I thought about it for like maybe a half a day and I was thinking and it was all in my head. I was thinking about it and I did it. But with you with all the editing and stuff and especially with the new editing technique you had with the really graphical art, like the art was coming alive. Like how was that whole thing for you, man? Like how long did it take
Um,
and
it was it was kind of daunting, but at the same time, I knew that I could do it. So I've known how to use programs like Sony Vegas, which I use for editing. I've used Adobe Premiere for editing as well. I know my way around Photoshop pretty well. I'm all sort of self-taught with that.
Mhm.
But the one program that I was always scared to touch was After Effects because it just seemed so complex. And I'm like, keyframes and turbulent displacements and puppet tools, and I'm just like, oh man, it's too much. I'll just do normal editing. It's a lot easier. And then I got inspired. Shout out to Jesse from Fabcracks for getting me inspired to really attempt to animate artwork and do it in After Effects. I sat down and I was like, all right, I got the artwork for Lord Sutcliffe, and I was like,
Mhm.
this artwork's just bonkers amazing. I need to animate it, and if at the very least it's the only piece of artwork I animate, that's good enough. The rest of the video, will still look great, but then this will be the icing on the cake.
Mhm.
And I started to animate it, and I cut out all the bits in Photoshop, and I learned how to properly separate layers so I could animate them separately. And then I did it, and I was like, you know what, that wasn't too bad. What
Oh,
if I
that's
try
awesome.
this other piece? And then I tried doing subtle effects where you know, a figure would sort of zoom out and then the background would zoom in, or like the opposite effect. And I started doing it and I'm like, wow, a lot of these effects, like a lot of the more simple effects where just pieces of the artwork are moving and maybe something's waving in the background, they can be pumped out pretty quickly.
Huh,
So
that's
I was
cool.
like, all right. So I just got a bunch of the artwork I was going to use for the video. I edited it, I cut it out into its individual pieces, chucked all of them into After Effects, and I just started moving stuff around. I'm like, all right, let's see if I can just move this, or I have this waving in the background. Like one of my favorite pieces is the one where Leviah and Chain are standing next to each other,
Mhm.
and Chain's cloak is like flapping in the background as Leviah sort of like has this almost like parallax effect where she's coming back into the background and the background's moving forward.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was awesome. I was like, whoa, that was super easy. Oh my God, I can just make it look awesome. And even though it's such a subtle effect, when you notice it, it just makes the quality of the video just increase tenfold.
That's a good
So
point.
I
I
was
think the
like,
ones that are just
yeah,
really subtle, those have, like, the biggest impact, honestly, because it's just
mm,
like it's just that little thing that can be done that just makes it come alive.
yeah. And yeah, it was daunting at first, as I said. And then once I got a couple of the animations under my belt, I was like, that's it. I got this in the bag. And it was probably about a week solid I
Wow.
spent on that video, and I finished it the day before it was meant to be posted. I had most of it done before then, but I was doing the finishing touches on that final day. That's when I made my new intro as well. Um, and I spent a week just grinding it out. I'm like, I'm gonna animate every single piece in this video if it's the last thing I do, because this is gonna be my best video ever. Animated it all. It looked amazing. I was like hyping myself up. I'm like, all right, I hope everything goes well. And then I was like, all right, I'll start giving small hints and teasers. I posted a few teasers here and there. And then yeah, when the premiere started, I think at its peak, I had about 90 people watching it at the same time,
Wow.
which
That's
was
crazy.
that was nuts. I was like, oh man, there's like 90 people watching right now. If I left a mistake in there, like a cough or something, everyone's gonna see it. And I was like freaking out.
Did you
I ended
rewatch
up,
it, like, a bunch of times? I know I rewatched
yeah,
mine a ton. I
I
was like, "What I do wrong?" Yeah.
I was watching it. And I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I upload the correct version where I made this revision and whatnot. And then I ended up staying up pretty late for it because the time in which I was allowed to post it, the earliest possible was like 2 o'clock in the morning for me.
Hmm.
And then I was told that I needed to post it within 6 hours of 2 o'clock in the morning. So I had from 2 o'clock in the morning to 8 a.m. And I was like, I can't go to sleep before I post this. I have to stay up and post this video. So I had a mate that I was playing games with while I was, killing time because I was just like, it wasn't so much like nervousness in terms of like panic. It was like excited nervousness. And I'm just like, oh man, like the time's ticking down. I got like 30 minutes till this thing premieres. I'm like, all right, we're gonna stay up, we're gonna watch it, we're gonna chat with everyone. It's gonna be awesome. And then it premiered. Watched the video. As soon as Lord Sutcliffe appeared on the screen on the video, I posted the spoiler to the Discord and to like the Facebook page.
Hmm.
And that was it. And everyone was like, oh my God, that was just bonkers. Like, in terms of my channel growth, within a week of posting that video, so over the past week that I had posted it, I gained roughly 100 subscribers.
Wow.
And the video is already, if I check it now, it's probably my most viewed video. But the last time I checked it, maybe like a day or two ago, it was like 30 views away from being my most viewed video.
Wow. That's
And I was just
awesome.
like, that's crazy.
Give me
People
more of
like the
that.
new style. Yeah. People are like, oh yes, more voice acting, more animated videos, and I was just like, all right, I've set the bar incredibly high for myself. I got to keep jumping higher.
Well, yeah,
I'm
because I
like, what,
loved
what,
the
yeah, what
voice
have I
acting
done?
was really good, man. No, and I remember watching it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome!" Like the animated art, and then the big kicker was when you saw the card, the spoil card at the end, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this thing is freaking amazing!" Like I was like, "What is this? Mentor card?" I mean, it was
Yeah.
it was like a big kicker. It was just really cool to see, man.
Mm. I got sent the email by Sasha, who sent me the card to spoil. He had emailed me, I think like a couple days before spoiler season started, and he's like,
Hmm.
"Yo, I've got a spoiler card for you. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yes,
Yeah.
of course." And yeah, it was like I think it was 12 days before I was meant to spoil the card was when I got sent the card. And at
Oh,
that point in time, I think all we had seen was like some of the most bonkers cards would have been like, um, the legendary like Doomsday and like Eclipse cards. I think DM Armada had spoiled Carrion Husk, the equipment that blocks for 6.
yep.
Like all that stuff, I think was like the craziest stuff that we had seen at that point. And I'm just sitting here like mentor card. I'm like, people think they've seen everything. They ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah.
Like it's this is gonna be big. I originally thought that Lord Sutcliffe was the only mentor card. And then as I talked to Sasha a bit more about what I could tease and whatnot, he mentioned that the day prior, mentors were going to be spoiled as well. So I was like, oh, there's multiple mentor cards. I'm like,
Well, this
thinking to
is
myself, I'm
interesting.
like, I know this information. I'm like, oh, what could the mentors be? And I'm like, what would each one do? And it was nuts to be given such a card that's so unique and such a fresh. Like, even though Flesh and Blood is in general just a breath of fresh air, this is like, having a minty chewy and then drinking cold water on top of it. Like it's just so it's so ice cold. I was just like, oh man, it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no, because
geeked
it's
out. I
next
saw
level. I
it
mean, because it's just some completely new mechanic that we hadn't even heard of yet, and like you were given
out.
it. And what's cool too, man, what I like about Legend Story Studios is I'm pretty sure they gave you that card because you're all about the Viscerai lore. Like you're
Yep.
super into that, so they're like, hey, like Kale really likes Viscerai lore. Let's give him Sutcliffe. That's really cool. And I like
Yeah.
how they did that with different places like Bill from Reaper Store Games. I think he got like the Reaper card or something,
Lunatide
or the
Plunderer, which had
scythe.
like a Reaper on it, yeah.
Yeah, so I just thought that was cool, man.
Yeah, it was very flattering that I got the opportunity to spoil such a unique card because the two other people that spoiled mentors were Noxious, who
Yep.
has something like what 200,000, 300,000 subscribers, and
Yeah.
then the professor from Tolarian Community College spoiled a card. Well, he was meant to spoil it on the same day as me, but there was a little mix up, so he spoiled it a bit later. But I was like, my God, me as someone who at the time had 300 subscribers is getting the same opportunity as these big time YouTubers. And I was blown away. I was like, LSS has full faith in me. And that's just so, I don't know, it's something so different. You know, I almost felt
Oh yeah.
guilty. I'm like, they're treating me way too good. I'm like, you need to spread around the love. You know, other content creators do amazing work too. It's not just me, but you know, I'll take
Oh
what I give
no.
them.
But well no, it fed into your theme, man. And honestly, you've been
Mm,
doing this for like, since the beginning. I mean, before I got into content creating, I was watching your videos and it's just good stuff because it really gets people hyped and it's like watching a movie, man. I really like the videos. Like it's really good stuff.
mm. Yeah, it was it's something I'll never forget, I'll tell you that.
Oh, I bet.
I don't know what they're gonna give me in future sets if they give me spoiler cards that's gonna top that. So, we'll see.
I know what you mean. Like it's just really cool, honestly, too, to just be a part of it. Like, see, like,
Mm,
okay, we're going down the ride, but we're also like being like the first person to see like the card for the new set. It's just, it was really cool.
yeah, and,
I would have even
as part
spoiled a crack bobble or something, you know?
yeah, like the new Cracked Bauble, it's more cracked, have you seen
Yeah.
that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, the new artwork for Cracked Bauble, it's even more cracked than it was before, and I was like,
Really?
"Oh my god, what's happening?" Like, the world's exploding, Cracked Bauble's becoming more cracked, the crackier bauble, I don't know.
I gotta see that. I didn't.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
it's
like
really cool, I
broken
think
bobble.
yeah, so, like, the cracks have become, like, more pronounced, and I think, like, there's a slight green almost like a glow to it, and I think there's, like, maybe vines crawling up it, I'm not sure, I've seen people talk about it, but I haven't really sat down and looked at it, so it's kinda funny because I made this April Fool's video about the cracked bauble, and now I think a lot of it that I made up might actually be true.
Wouldn't that be
So,
funny?
yeah, that'd be nuts,
The
yeah.
joke becomes reality.
Yeah, that'd be crazy,
I mean, because if they're putting it into every set, it must have some significant importance,
exactly, yeah,
hopefully.
yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it was like the most powerful legendary card, and then something
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, so I just hope that, um, yeah, my April Fool's video, enough people could see the sarcasm because it was very dry, and I'm like, you know, people are commenting and they're like, "Oh, that's an awesome video." I'm like, "You you do realize it was a joke, right?"
Yeah,
So, I think a lot of people did get it, but yeah, I was just worried that maybe I wasn't as sarcastic enough as I should have been for that one, so
I thought you were sarcastic enough. Sometimes I've seen sarcasm and stuff like that is hard to portray over videos. Like I had this one video where I made it a parody, right? And I even put in the title like this is a parody video. And basically what I did, man, I don't know if it was a long ass time ago. I
I think
was
I might have seen
I was opening these packs, right? And I was like, "Oh, I bought these off of eBay, from a totally legit person." And I opened them up, right? And there was like a Bulbasaur and like some Japanese
Oh,
cards.
that's right.
Yeah, and I was like,
I remember
You know what this means, right, guys?" And I was like, "This means that LSS has really, dumped down on their quality." And I was blaming LSS. I was blaming Card of Monday, but obviously it was a parody. Like the whole point of the video is don't buy loose packs online because you get scanned, you
Yeah,
know. But I w-
exactly.
some people just didn't get it. They were like, "What? Like what? What are you talking about?" No, I don't know. But
They're like, "Oh, get a refund," and it's like, "No, dude, I was joking."
yeah,
Yeah. No, I remember seeing that video. That was hilarious. I love a lot of your videos. Every time I have, like, noticed that you've uploaded something new and I've got some time to spare, I always try my best to watch every one of your videos because they're really good. Like, even if it's
oh,
just you
thanks, man.
talking, I just appreciate it's almost like I'm talking to you, but we can't hear each other whenever I watch one of your videos, if that makes sense. It's like having a conversation, it's just I don't say anything back, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's really good. Yeah, it's just something that, you know, is a boredom killer whenever I'm like, oh, you know, I wonder what Bronson thinks about this particular topic. And
Thanks,
then I'll
man.
sit down and watch it. I'm like, yeah, I can understand where he's coming from with this. So
Some of
Yeah, I
my
always try to watch all your content.
some of my recent content, I think I'm doing a little bit too long. I need to like get a little bit short because then I just like try to go on and on. Like 40 minutes is a little bit much. I think like that 20 to 30, that's a good range for me. But because like in the
It's,
beginning, I was like
yeah.
after 5 minutes, I'd be like, okay, that's the end of the video.
Like, "Oh,
Like,
turn it off."
yeah, because there's like this thing where when you're talking and then you like hit a roadblock, like it can be, like, really, like, you just freeze, and then it's like, "Well,
Mm,
that's the end," but you develop this sense of trying to get over roadblocks so much that I've just been going further and further and further, and when it hits 40 minutes, then it's like, I'm just starting to talk about some off topic, I've gone off, like,
yeah,
the
yeah.
3rd topic, but thanks, man. I know, I appreciate it. No, it's been a lot of fun, and I really like what you said, when we first talked, like, make content that you would enjoy watching, and
Mm,
that's the type of stuff I like is just raw and real and
yeah,
get my point
definitely.
across.
There's room in this community for a wide variety of content
Yep.
in different forms, in different topics, in different lengths of videos. Like, I think there's almost a sweet spot between, especially with your type of content, where it's like a lot of discussion. There's a sweet spot between having those short, sweet videos and the long videos where you really dive into a topic. So,
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is pretty good at the moment. I've noticed. I noticed like a almost like an increase of like it's hard to describe. Your latest videos are like a lot more crisper, if that makes sense.
Oh, thanks.
It's very odd to say. I think it's because the way that you talk is has improved. You've gotten more pronounced and clearer in the way you talk. You're on track with your topics, but you know when you're veering off a little bit too much to like bring it back in, but it's still enough variation in your path that it's still interesting. So your content lately has been very good, I will say.
I'm
So
trying to improve, man. Just like you with you're learning that new program. Like I'm like verbally speaking is really hard and figuring out what you're doing and where you could like improve like with that. It's really it's really tough, but it's fun. I mean, honestly,
yeah,
if if I could talk to my previous self whenever I was thinking of like public speaking, I think instead of public speaking, honestly, people should just like go in front of a webcam and figure that shit out. Because honestly, you learn
yeah,
so much YouTube content creating, like just talking and trying to figure out what you're gonna say, especially just winging it. Like if you just
yeah.
think of like, okay, I'm gonna talk about card rarity and how good it is, or like power creep, and you just like go like 20 minutes, like
Mm,
that's a good skill to have.
yeah, and it's definitely not easy. So
No,
I can definitely appreciate the amount of sort of, I guess, effort it takes to produce that type of content that you do. So
yeah, but
I've noticed.
any
Yeah, it's almost like I'll let you go. I'll let you
oh, I'm sorry,
go.
my bad. No, like anything to get out of editing for me. But what were you gonna say?
I've noticed ever since Crucible of War, and I guess we noticed it a little bit when we did our first episode, which we were episode 2 when I jumped on,
Hmm.
and you're up to what episode would this be now? Like
Like
20 something?
yeah, 21 or 22. Yep,
Far out. Time flies.
it does.
I've noticed that we've had like almost like a renaissance of like quality of content from creators. So whether that's existing creators sort of partnering up and collaborating on different content, or if it's just the amount of content that we get. There's a lot more creators in the space now, and a lot of
Hmm.
them are fantastic, coming up. Or even if it's just video quality. Yeah, I feel like we're in almost a bit of a golden age, and I'm not sure if when that will stop or if it will stop anytime soon. But it's really good. Everyone's trying their best to sort of one up each other, but in a good way. Steel sharpens steel, which I think is the best way to go about it.
Oh
That
yeah.
that's something that with someone like Jesse from Fabcracks, when I saw his lore video, I was like, all right, I got some competition here. I need to step my game up. Like I can't slack off now. I need to make sure what I'm producing is the best I can. And that's just been awesome. I've talked to him recently because you've, connected us together, and he's given me tips on how to animate stuff, and just talking about, the game, the lore, and content creation. And it's just, yeah, it's another form of being welcomed into the community, which was already so welcoming.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's not really being, stuck up or being like, oh no, I do this content, so I don't want to talk to anyone else because I want to be the best at it. Or, oh, I have, 10 times the amount of subscribers as I do to you, I'm not going to talk to you.
Yeah.
But it's everyone. It doesn't matter who a content creator is. If they're making something that someone likes, regardless of how big any one individual in that sort of deal is, they're going to collaborate. And that's just really cool.
That's
So
such a good point because it's like there's a point where when you are with a bunch of group of people in the same realm, like content creating, there's a thing of competition, and competition does breed like people getting better because you want to be better yourself to be better than someone else. But really don't have it to where we want to be better than each other. We just want to make better content. But I've seen that too
mm.
because it's like people aren't really in competition where we're constantly there's so many different collabs after that. I mean,
Oh
this is
yeah.
an example. Like you and I are just talking.
Yeah.
This is a collab video. Like there's so much different collaboration happening, but also, people are trying to make the best quality content that they can. And I was talking to Kale the other night from Red Zone Rogue, and he mentioned you actually. He said,
Oh really?
yeah, he saw your preview video like last time, right? For I think Arcane Rising. I think it was Arcane Rising, right? Did you make one for
Would have been
that?
Crucible of
Or
War. I did
Crucible
one
War?
for both of those sets as well. So
Yeah, and he said the same thing that you just said. He's like, "Oh wow, like I gotta step my game up. Like this is amazing. Like I need to
yeah.
I need to do better." So it's cool how you have that, and like I have to admit, like I saw Louis from Kitchen Table TCG, and the way that he vocalizes and says certain things, I've started to be like, "Oh, I gotta get my game up on this aspect or that." And honestly, though, the one thing I'm not gonna touch with him is like he uploads like 2 videos a day, and he's been doing it
Oh,
for like a
he's
long ass time.
nuts, man.
He is a goat. Like, remember how I used to do like 1 video a day for I think 3 months straight, and that was like crazy. I do not know
yeah.
how he. And you know what's crazy is he films and he publishes on the same day, which like when I heard that, it just blew my mind. Cause dude, like I'd have periods of like a week and a half where I just didn't do anything because I just had all these videos just scheduled out. But
Yeah.
but filming 2 videos a day and uploading, that is I respect the shit out of that. That's crazy.
Yeah. He's really nuts with that. Like, for example, when like mentor cards were spoiled,
Uh-huh.
I'd jump on YouTube an hour after they've been spoiled, and Louis has like a 30-minute video. And I'm like, so so you spent 30 minutes recording this video as soon as you saw the news, and then within 30 minutes of that, you've now edited it and uploaded it. I'm like, what? Are you a robot? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah.
He's nuts. So yeah, massive respect to Louis for pumping out the content like he does. And it's not like low quality. It's all like good quality.
Oh, it's
It's
so
hard to
good.
it's hard to produce such good quality content and pump out so much of it. Like, he does. I've seen like, what is it? He's done like, I think he's done like 4, 5 videos in one day or something
Really?
stupid like that. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but from looking at his channel, I'm like, oh, you uploaded this 2 hours ago, 6 hours ago, 12 hours ago, 18 hours ago, and 22 hours ago. And I'm like, what? Like, how are you doing that?
That's
So,
insane. Cause like
mm,
at different times you have to sleep and you have to eat, you have to like do other work. I don't know, it's very impressive.
yeah,
But I mean, it's a
a lot
great
of
time to
content
be in it.
creators. Yeah, a lot of content creators just live and breathe the game, and that's just really cool to see. So,
Yeah, and I mean,
yeah.
what's nice too, you talk about a golden era. I feel that in the past, like maybe in September 2020 and through like, December, I think people who were making Flesh and Blood content were kind of like on the fence of it. They were like, "Oh, kind of dabble here." because
Mm,
like it just didn't get as many views as like a bunch of other stuff, Magic the Gathering and other stuff. But now I feel like people are going to Flesh and Blood and making content and just sticking with it because they realize it's hot.
yeah.
They realize it's the next big thing. So they want to be covering like what is insanely hot and what's getting the views. And that's really cool to see. It's really cool to
Mm,
see that people are coming and staying. But what's also cool, and I think you were talking about like the quality of even new people come on, and I'm just blown away, dude. Like, there's this guy
mm.
who just started making content. I think in the last month, his name's like Sloop Dupe or something. This fucker, like, he
Oh.
has like a really nice setup, and he vocalizes himself like perfectly, and I'm like, shit. Like, if I was like this when I first started,
I
it'd be
think I've
insane.
seen I think I saw one of his videos in the Flesh and Blood Discord in the community content
Yeah,
channel. It was like yesterday or something, and I was like, "Oh, that video looks interesting. I should probably watch that." So yeah, no, it's crazy. It's it's really bringing out the best in everyone, which
yeah,
is the best thing to see. So yeah, it's it's just it's very hard to imagine that this type of community could have existed, 3 years ago before Flesh and Blood was really even known to anyone at all. When it was just, something that was upcoming, and only a few people had heard about it. And for it to be where it is now and just the community to be as good as it is, it's almost as if it's not real. It's like it's a dream,
it's true.
every time I upload a video and I get, you know, shout outs from different people or like nice comments or people talking about it, I'm like, all right, any moment now I'm gonna wake up, I got hit by a car. I've been in a coma for the past couple of years,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah, it's just wild, man. It's just it's a really good time. I hope it doesn't change because I know as this game gets bigger and bigger and the community gets bigger, I hope it stays like this because
Mm,
it's a really good precedent, I think, and that's a good point where it's like things are so determined on where they start. And that really sets the ground floor for everything going forward. Because I hope new content creators come in the space and like, oh, they watch a lot of different videos and they're like, oh, look, collaboration is a thing. I want to collab. I'm gonna be happy
mm.
and yeah, and positive and yeah, it's just really cool to see, man. And I can't wait to see more content creators in the future. I think that it's gonna happen because in the Gem ID, did you see that thing where it says, "Hey, are you a content creator?" And then you hit like yes, and then you fill out like this little survey.
Oh, I think I remember seeing that, and I
Did
was
you do that?
like, "Oh, I should probably go look at that." I mean, LSS already has all my details and
Oh
stuff, so I
yeah,
don't know what I could get out of it. But I was like, I should probably like have a look at that and see if I can officially register as like a content creator and whatnot. So yeah, no, it's the way that LSS treats their content creators is very, very not only just kind and generous, but also very smart from a business point of view.
agreed.
Like they know that word of mouth is the best way to spread like a good product.
Yep.
Advertising will only do so much because I see adverts for products that I'm like, there is no way in hell am I ever going to use that product. Like all
Yeah.
these crappy mobile games I get in YouTube ads, I'm like, yes, I'm definitely going to play this game that was, made by some company just trying to get microtransactions for money. But
Yeah.
word
Right.
of mouth, if somebody came up to me and said, hey, this mobile game is amazing. I've been binging it. I'd be like, oh, you know what? If somebody I trust and respect their opinion of says a good thing about this product, then I trust that what they're saying is genuine and maybe I should check it out. So that's that's a good reason why a good thing about why LSS really treats content creators the way they do because it's just good for building a community, but it's also good for getting the word of Flesh and Blood out. That's why they
Oh yeah.
send um, all these spoiler cards and promotional things to like big names, like Rudy from Alpha Investments, the Professor, Steve Aoki. I actually don't really know who he is. I know he's a musician, but I haven't heard of him. But he's massive. The Rad Brad, I knew who the Rad Brad was. He's got like 12 million subscribers on YouTube, and he spoiled a hero,
Yeah, that was
and that
nuts.
video got so many views. And imagine all these people going, "Whoa, Rad Brad plays this game. Looks pretty cool. Maybe I'll give it a look." And then they jump into it, and next thing you know, they're buying decks and booster boxes and cards, and they're
Yep.
playing games.
They're a consumer of the
So
system.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did see a discussion on the Facebook page. I think it was about a week ago. Somebody was discussing how they thought of it as a bit unfair that LSS was sending, spoiler card or like copies of the spoiler cards to certain creators, but then not others.
Mhm.
And I think that was a really good discussion to have. But at the same time, I know I'm speaking from a place of privilege with this because I do get sent stuff by LSS and they spoil me to bits. But LSS doesn't owe us anything.
Yeah, they don't.
They're making us this awesome game, and the fact that they send content creators extra things is just kind of icing on the cake. I think they kind of have to be a bit careful with how they do it because if they do it too much and the game grows so much, they're going to have all these content creators saying, "Where's my piece of the pie? Where's my spoiler card? I
Yeah.
make all this content for your game and I'm getting nothing out of it. Why aren't you sending me a lore book? Why aren't you sending me the Heart of Fyendal? Why aren't you sending me like
Yeah.
first edition boxes and stuff?"
'Cause it sets a precedent,
So
right? Like, for all the new one.
yeah,
And I'm 100% on board with you saying, like, honestly, I'm just very humbled, and I can't believe I got a preview card. If you told me that 6 months ago, I've been like, "Okay, there's no freaking way, like, that's ever gonna happen." And I would've taken anything, honestly, and I'm really humbled that they gave me anything. But, yeah, to that point, it's their game. They should be able to do what they want with it, and
yeah,
honestly, this is all, like, marketing. And honestly, if somebody can bring in millions of people to Flesh and Blood, that is good. That is good for everyone. We want that to
yeah,
happen. And if it's going to take like a Heart of Fandale to do that, the test print one to Steve, or
yeah. That was
a
crazy.
lore book to anyone else, man, it's worth it. But you do have a good point. Like, there is a part of this discussion is, if there's more people in the future, like 1 to 2 years from now, be like, hey, well, he got a heart. Can I get one of those?
Yeah,
Like, yeah, and
exactly.
then there's like this negotiation maybe. So or maybe they don't operate like that. Maybe they're like, hey, like, do you want it or not? And then if you do, then we'll give you stuff. If not, yeah. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's only so many cards in a set that they can give out for people to spoil. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I always feel a little bit guilty every time I show off stuff that LSS sends me because I know that there are a bunch of other content creators out there that do amazing work and they don't always get sent the same things I do.
yeah,
So I always feel like, oh man, I feel bad. This guy didn't get, a playmat that I got sent, or they didn't get this or that. But I think it's good to sort of be humble about that in a way, because it means that like the recognition and I guess quote unquote fame, as famous as you can be in the Flesh and Blood community, um, it just shows that the fame isn't getting to your head.
yeah,
It keeps you grounded, and the more relatable you are as a person within the community, the more people will want to actively interact with you. Like, if you want to talk to, I don't know, Kim Kardashian or something, have fun trying to DM her on Instagram. You're not going to get anywhere
yeah,
because she's so far out of everyone's reach that she's not relatable.
yeah. You're gonna get the
Oh,
seventh assistant. Like,
yeah, it's like, oh no, you had to postpone your Botox appointment because I don't know, you, your sister bought a new puppy. It's like boohoo. Like, yes, I'm sure all of us working class people totally can relate to that.
yep,
But yeah, I always try to remain humble, and it's kind of contradicting to say that I am humble because saying that you're humble means that you're not humble, but I try to be humble because at the end of the day, I'm just a guy that's just making videos. I'm not that special. Sure, you might like my videos, but I'm
uh,
just a guy. I just play the game. So
I feel the same way. Well, like, I try to stay humble as well, and that's whole my, I'm a normal guy in a normal room thing. Like, I
yeah,
try not
yeah.
to like inflate my ego to like, oh, I'm this like great being, or like great, person. I'm just a guy as well in a room. I'm talking to a camera, and but it's just it is a thing, honestly, what you just said. Like, I also did struggle with that too. Like, I got the poster from LSS during December, and I didn't make a
Mm,
video about it because I was like, I don't want to be too showy. I didn't want to do this. And you're
yeah,
right,
yeah.
there are a ton of great content creators out there, who are making great content that have haven't gotten anything yet, but I think they just have to, the longer you're in this, I mean, it's gonna happen eventually. I mean, I've just
Mm,
been doing this since like, September, but yeah, I mean, I just think it's a matter of time. But I do know what you mean. But at the end of the day, it's all up to them and the people at LSS. I mean, they're so busy with so much, their
oh yeah.
stuff. They do their best, and I'm humbled to even get something. But man, it's been a wild ride. I mean, this set
Yeah.
is in particular with Monarch. I can't believe how epic the feel of it is, and how grandiose. I mean, do you think they're gonna keep on keeping on with that, or do you think like the darkness and light people are just gonna like leave, and then it's just gonna be real world stuff again?
Um, it's hard to say because obviously their goal as a company is to always make the next product better than the last,
Hmm.
but that's only realistic to a certain extent. You're going to have sets that are kind of downers compared to other sets. Like looking back at all the sets of Flesh and Blood, because I've been there for the release of every single one, there are definitely sets that I'm like, I don't like it as much as this set. But then on other days, I'm like, oh, actually, I really like that set.
Yeah.
Like, I bought a case of Crucible of War. I pulled four of the five most expensive cards from the set within a case. I got the Arknight Shard, I got Shyana, I got
Oh my
Foil
gosh.
Garganian Tome, and I got a full art Twinning Blade from a case.
That is
One case, that's four
insane.
boxes. And and even then, looking back on the set, there's still parts of it where I'm like, it wasn't as good as some other aspects of the other sets. Not to say it was a bad set, it was an amazing set. All the
Mhm.
sets have been amazing. But you always end up having a favorite for certain reasons, whether it's the cards that are included or the theme of it. Um, there's parts of Arcane Rising that I look at and I go, every time I look at the boosters, the unlimited boosters that we have in the store that I work at, and we have Welcome to Wraith or Arcane Rising, I can look at both of them and be like, there's reasons why I'd want to get the other, like certain pack over the other, just because of how I'm feeling on the day or the mood of the set or what cards are included. So there's always going to be downer sets, but I have faith in LSS that every set is going to bring some new twist to the game, similar to how Magic the Gathering always has new mechanics in every set.
Mm.
It's kind of impossible for LSS to make a new set and not have some sort of new twist to it. Because if they were like, "Oh, here's a new set. We've got uh, Ranger cards, we've got Wizard cards, we got Mechanologist cards, and we got Brute cards. That's it." People would be like, "Oh, okay, I guess that's cool. New cards." But like everyone's always looking for that that new twist. That's why Monarch was so amazing. We got the talent system, we got
Yeah.
mentors, we with the Fable. We have you seen the Fable? I'm sure you've seen the Fable.
Yeah, the Fable is like some like battlefield type card. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's a landmark. So
Landmark.
landmark is now a card type, and it's the Library of Solana. So now we've got cards that are like orientated landscape, and that's just you know all these new mechanics, and interacting with the banished zone and the soul. There's just so much stuff, and I just don't see any world where they're not going to at least attempt to keep that up. Whether or not
Yeah.
they fail with pulling it off and the sets are dud, I don't know. It's probably inevitable at some point, but that's no excuse to not try your best to make it fresh and exciting for people. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, just the realm of possibilities for the next couple things, and it's cool to see that they're not afraid of experimenting with new types of things
Mm,
and whatnot. And what I like too is the most important thing I felt is that whatever they did in the future, I really just hope that all the power creep is relatively on par. And I love seeing how they've implemented these new card types and they've kind of made it fair like the library of Solana, for instance. I don't think you can pitch with it and like
no, you
you can only
can't.
play it for two, right? And then
Yes.
it any player can discard two yellow pitch cards and destroy it. So that's so
Yeah.
cool. And then the mentor cards. I mean, they can only be played on your arsenal, and they take up the arsenal slot. So I mean, they are feel a little awkward when you're playing it. But if you do play it in a good, sequence, you can get it out relatively, easy.
Mm,
But I could definitely see where if your opponent's just constantly attacking you, it could really trip you up in certain situations. But yeah, it's just really cool to see how they've really had this power creep on par with other stuff in the past. That's really
mm.
nice, and especially with the new cards, it's cool how they have a ton of text, but in reality, like, you can play them for their costs, but, like, with Chain, for instance, like, they're really good if you banish them and then play them, but you don't have to do that, you could always draw them and just play them, and, yeah, I don't know. I just think that they've really implemented really cool mechanics now that are really good in certain situations, but they're not as good as cards that are just flat damage or flat ability, but they
Yeah.
can be better than that if you do, a certain thing in order. But it's
Yeah,
cool.
and that sort of ties back to what we talked about near the start was, how you open up a pack and everything in there is valuable to
Yep.
some extent. Like, for example, one of the best cards in the game is a common Scar for a Scar. It's a
Yeah.
common, like, and it's the meat and potatoes of the deck. So being a Magic player, I've looked into the history of Magic the Gathering, and I'm not going to talk about it too much, but one of the design philosophies that they had in the early days was that the rare cards weren't necessarily meant to be powerful. They were just meant to have interesting mechanics.
Mm,
And the cards that you wanted to use in the majority of your deck were going to be common. Obviously, that changed over time. Certain reasons, that way people want the chase cards, etc.
mhm.
But Flesh and Blood does a really good job where, like, many times I'll look at a Majestic and I'll be like, I don't know if this is better than a common, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm an avid Runeblade player. I do not play Rattlebones and I do not play Dread Triptych. I just don't really like them that much, you know? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, every time I get it, all I do is block with it or pitch it. I never play it for what it is. Or if I want to use it to its full extent, I have to build a deck around it. So I think they've really got the balance down packed. It is concerning that fables could potentially become playable, to the point where they're necessary. Being playable and being necessary are obviously two different things,
Mm,
but I just don't want them or legendaries to be necessary for a deck to work.
yeah,
We've
agreed.
got kind of a few cards that are sort of like that. Like, for example, if you're playing Ranger and you're not using, uh, you know, the Skullbone Cross Wraps or whatever it is, you're not playing Ranger right.
Yeah.
You kind of need that card to opt and look at top card of your deck and flip cards up. So it's very cool mechanic. So I hope that they continue the trend of legendaries and majestics and fables are really cool and they're cool collector's pieces and they have very interesting effects that can change the way you play, but they are not the core of your deck.
Yep.
As long as they do that, the price of like decks and stuff will decrease because you can build decks that are budget in Flesh and Blood, and they're still very close or on par with a lot of decks that have majestics and stuff. Like certain situations, you might not do as well, but you still have more than a fighting chance. Whereas something like Magic the Gathering, I feel like if you make a budget deck, you're doing it for fun, and you know that you're probably not going to win. And if you do win, well, it's down to luck. And if you lose, it's because you got cards that aren't worth as much because all the good cards are expensive. So
Yeah, that's what I
yeah,
can't wait for is when a budget deck wins a tournament and you put that deck list and say, "Hey, this deck won like this tournament." That's going to be huge. I mean, some like, brute deck that has a bunch of swing with big trees, that type of deck is going to
Smash
be
with Big Tree. I love that
yeah.
card. That card is so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool.
So yeah, it's definitely something to watch out for, and I know that LSS has their ear to the community, and even a lot of people that were, I guess, professional players. So people like Sasha and Kieran and Carol from Session Blood, like they're all hired now by LSS. So
Yeah,
their
it's
input
crazy.
is going to be good because they've been in the tournament scene. They know how interactions work and how players work and what cards should do, and if they're too broken, they're like almost like an outside voice of suggestion and opinion for what they do. I don't exactly know their roles in the company. I roughly know what Sasha does, but I don't know if they've got any like input on balance. But it definitely wouldn't surprise me if LSS hires the help of professional players to like help balance the game, because that would make a lot of sense. Other card games don't really do that, and the balance level is way off. Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't know much about Yu-Gi-Oh, but my god, is that game broken?
I've
And
heard
I'm pretty
things, but
sure
I
they're
haven't.
not talking to professional players about it.
Yeah, probably not. Well, it helps because then you don't want to have to ban cards at all. Like that's like the
Mm,
last scenario. But even still, when you do that, it hurts morale because it's like you purchase this product and then now you're telling me these game pieces can't be used. And I mean, I know the
yeah.
investors and collectors are like, "Ooh, awesome," but but the people
Yeah.
who, yeah, who just want to play the game, it's a detriment, especially when like if you get some like really hot legendary card or majestic
Mm,
card. Oh man, and if you like, if you pull a legendary from Monarch and then like two weeks later, oh sorry, you can't play that. It's like what?
mm,
Yeah,
yeah. So, yeah, and that was quite interesting when they banned Drone of Brutality. What was your opinion on that? I don't remember if you made a video. I think you did, but
I don't know if I did or not. I thought it was reasonable. I think I understood it, and I mean, I think if you played classic constructed and played like nine of them in your deck, and you made some like fucking crazy like heal deck where you heal and then just drone the whole time, I could see how it would get a little ridiculous. I do see how with the new heroes, like I think with like I'm trying to think of a good one. Like Levia, where you're putting a card in like the graveyard, like you take cards off your deck, put in the graveyard. How that could be a little bit crazy because you just like put in the graveyard, put on your deck. But
mm,
I do understand why they did it, and you probably know like the whole core mechanic of every card counts. If you have a card that constantly goes back into your deck, then you don't really feel like every card counts because then it's like you
mm,
have Drone of Brutality like 6 or 7 times throughout the course of a game. But I thought it was good.
mm,
I mean, it makes sense. I always thought that card was a little bit crazy in that sense where it's like you get continued value throughout the game. And that's what I thought like when I saw those Warrior boots recently. I had that same type of feeling like, wow, you can
mm,
get a lot of value out of this card if you have it to the long game. And I mean, but I guess with equipment, you could always destroy it. Whereas Drone of Brutality, you can't destroy it. And honestly, I think the way they could have made the card fair is the way if you attack with it, then it goes to your under your
mm,
deck. But if you defend
definitely.
with it, then it goes to graveyard permanently. But that was my
Mm.
take. What about you? What do you think about it?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Because especially when we started to see cards from Monarch, I forgot which cards it was exactly, but everyone was like, "Ah, okay, now we understand why
Yeah.
um, that card got banned." Like, imagine you're versing in Classic Constructed Prism Illusionist. You
Mhm.
just run as many copies of Red Drone of Brutality. You block all the Phantasm attacks because it's a 6 attack card,
Yep.
and then it just goes back into your deck to do it all over again.
Yeah.
So I think having that sort of value, like recursion in Flesh and Blood, is obviously a big part of it, and it's a very fine balance to sort of get right. Which is why I've noticed a lot of their cards that give you value or they go back into the deck require some sort of input from the player to actually happen. Whether it's cards like Memorial Grounds that puts cards on top of your deck, or Remembrance. That's all well and good. It gives you recursion, but you're sacrificing a card in your deck to do that.
Mhm.
Whereas cards with like Drone of Brutality, if I have a handful of Drone of Brutality and you attack me, unless I really want to attack you back the next turn, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just block with them. Whatever, they're coming back. You don't interact with it, and I think that's the main reason why they wanted to get rid of it, was because it was just non-interactable. You didn't have to think about it. It took away any choice of, do I want to keep this card or use it for defense. So yeah, I totally understand why they did it, and I kind of agree. Like, it wasn't, at least in the games I played, it wasn't bad, but sometimes it was like annoying. Like, if I was playing a
Yeah.
fatigue deck in Blitz and my opponent's running Drone of Brutality, I'm like, well, I'm stuffed.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fatigue them out because they're always going to have Drone of Brutality. So I had to find another way to like, finish him off. But yeah, I definitely agree with why they banned it
Yeah.
and how it kind of went against their core game philosophy. Um,
And it was
yeah.
funny too because like usually when you hear a banned card, you think, "Oh, this is a game-breaking card. This makes you do some crazy combo that instantly like makes you win." But that wasn't the case here. So I think a lot of people were confused because when,
Mm,
other games, you have an overpowered card, that's why it gets banned. But in this case, it was more design philosophy. And it was cool to see that like, okay, we're only banning this card because of that reason instead of like it just being like completely broken in a format. Um, but yeah, it was it was a good decision, I think. I mean,
mm.
especially early on, just to get it out of the way. But
Yeah, like even Matt Rogers, I remember watching a video. I think Ian
yeah,
from Radio Reflex was like interviewing Matt Rogers, and he's like, "What do you think of the banning? It's just happened." And Matt Rogers is like, "Oh, it's just made Ira better. Now I can run 3 defense cards,
yeah,
instead of having to put drone in because of the recursion." So, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, yeah, I can see why they're running it now. It wasn't necessarily such a good card. It just made it so much easier to block and just be like, I don't have to think about it. Dump these cards. They're coming back anyway." So,
yeah, and
yeah.
that's a good point of it. It's like, yeah, it seems like certain decks used it just because it had that recursion, and it could go into a strategy if you're getting fatigued, then it would help out. So you had to put it in there. So
Mm.
it's kind of cool in that aspect of now. It's like, oh well, now that it's not there, oh I can put these fun cards that I like playing in my deck
Exactly.
instead of this card that I have to because everyone's running it, and if I don't, then they're gonna have a good fatigue and they can like fatigue me out at the end. So overall, I
Mm.
think, yeah, it was good in that sense, but it'll be cool to see too if they ban anything else in the future. I don't think any other card in the set has any type of effect like that where it's just constant
Yeah.
like value.
I'm trying to think of cards that are contenders for being banned. I remember back when Welcome to Wraith was the only set, people talked about, Enlightened Strike being banned because it was such good value,
Hmm.
but that didn't get banned because I think it kinda teeters the edge. It's a very good card, but I
Yeah.
think it's broken because you still have to make a decision as to what card you want to put on, I believe it's the bottom of your deck so you can actually play it. And then
Hmm.
you have to make the decision. Do I want to have it be a 7 attack, but it doesn't have go again? Do I want it to have go again? Do I want to draw a card? So that's been one contender for being banned. I think some people have said Command and Conquer, but I don't think it's that bad. Obviously, we've got Andy from Midian Gaming memeing up
Oh yeah,
about banning Route.
I love that. Yeah.
um, and I could totally understand it, but you can still sort of counterplay Route to an extent. The amount of times I've versed the Warrior, because there's a few people in my sort of regular group that I play with, and one of them, he's like the youngest kid. He plays Warrior, and I'll be playing a game against him, and he's like, "Oh, I attack you," and I'm like, "I don't block," and he's like, "Damn it!" So I just don't
That's
block his
awesome.
attack, so he doesn't get reprise, or I use a card from Arsenal, so the reprise doesn't trigger, and he's like, "Oh man!" Like, so there's always counterplay to cards like that, but it'll be interesting to see the first card that gets banned due to its actual power level and
Mm,
what that would look like. Would it be a legendary? Would it be a majestic? Would it be a common? Would it be a rare? It's it's obviously something we don't want to happen, but it's also interesting to theory craft how far can you push a card before it becomes broken?
yeah.
We saw during previous season for Monarch, we saw Celestial Cataclysm, a 0 cost 7 attack go again. What the hell?
Yeah, that card's
Like,
insane.
who designed that? But then we had, as an additional cost, you have to banish 3 cards from your soul, so you have to set it up.
Yep.
It's still an amazing card. It's great value, but it's not free value. And I think being free value with no downside is what would push a card to being broken. So
Oh yeah, agreed. Where you didn't have to like do anything crazy setting up wise,
you
and
just play it and then it does it. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the cool thing is that when they make these really powerful cards, there's usually a huge downside, and to that point, like trying to get 3 cards in your soul first, I mean that takes a lot of setup, and to do that, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm interested to see what new cards we'll get in the future, especially with this new talent system. It's it's going to be interesting to see what each region gets as a talent.
Mm.
I've kind of speculated just personally on what each one could possibly be like, but we have such a little information that it's almost impossible to make a good guess. Like the only thing that we can really guess is like things like mechanologist, because James White said, I think it was in a Team Covenant podcast episode he was like being interviewed on,
Mhm.
how he said the reason why all the mechanologist cards had the exact same border, because normally like you have your hero card like Dorinthia and she has the Solanian border, which we now know to be like the light border.
Mhm.
But her class cards as warrior don't have the same border. They've got just a generic warrior border. Mechanologist, the hero and all the cards have the exact same border.
Mm.
And now that we've seen the talent system, many people have speculated, because James White said, oh, you'll find out why they've all got the same border in March 2021, which was the original release date for Monarch. It seems obvious now that Mechanologist isn't necessarily a class, it's a talent. In
Hmm.
the same way that you would have Light and Shadow, Mechanologist is just a talent. So realistically, if it is a talent, we could get a Mechanologist warrior that uses like Mechanologist cards and like warrior cards. That'd be crazy. So
That would be insane. Yeah, like so mechanologist you're saying is a talent and
mm,
is not a class.
yeah, so it's like Light or Shadow. So
Wow, that would be great. Because then what would be nice is Dash would be able to use whatever talents relating to mechanologist.
well, since she herself would be a mechanologist, she would probably be locked to just mechanologist cards.
Oh,
So, for
okay.
example, if we had a light hero, they could probably only use light cards. Because in the lore for metrics, they've
Mhm.
talked about how there's three main sort of studies of science in the city. One of them is mechanology. The others was alchemy and I think biomancy.
Hmm.
So my theory is that a lot of other people have had the same theory, is that from metrics, we're not necessarily always going to get like a class per se. We're going to get a talent, and metrics is going to have three talents, one for each of the sciences. So we could get an alchemist and a biomancer. So we could get like an alchemist ranger that uses like potions on their arrows, or we could get a biomancer brute who is all about like modifying their genetics to become stronger and more aggressive. So it's
Ah, that'd be
it's
so cool.
yeah, it's open to so many different things, and all we can do is speculate. But I think we've got enough evidence for that we can sort of make a good guess that mechanologist is a talent, not a class. So,
Yeah. I think too what they're gonna do, man, is they have the dark and the light, Solana and Demonestry. I think they're gonna
mm.
pair them like my last video where I talk about the regions and stuff. So like the Arya is gonna go against the Savage Lands, and then what is it? Volcor is gonna go against the Mechanologist people up there in uh Mechland.
Mechland for
And then
metrics.
yeah,
Yeah.
metrics. And then the pits are gonna go against Mysteria. Like that's my theory. Those talents are gonna be in the next like 3 sets. And that's cool how they set
Yeah.
that up for like the next year and a half. Like Kingdoms is gonna be two talents going against each other. And then the next two is gonna be two and two. So you're gonna have all 8 regions in the next like by the end of
Yeah.
2022. So I
It
really like how that's set up.
yeah, it definitely makes sense that from like a mechanic standpoint, that every set from now on introduces um two new talents
Mm.
that we can add on. So I'm very curious to see what they would be. Like one of my coworkers, he thought maybe like the one from Mysteria could be Mystic. So you could get a Mystic ninja who's all about stealth, and maybe you could get, an assassin in that sense. So it, yeah, it just opens it up to so many different cool gameplay mechanics. They've really forward planned like how they're going to expand Flesh and Blood from here on out, because they could have easily have locked themselves into just doing classes.
Mm.
But the talent system, the amount of combinations of different things you can now do with talents because they are an addition to like a hero on top of the class. It's just crazy. Like we can get light versions now of all existing classes. We can get shadow versions of all existing classes. When the new talents come out, we'll get all existing classes with that talent. So yeah, they've been very smart about it. So it's very exciting to see what will happen. So who knows?
What do you think they're going to do with supplemental product? Like, so it seems like now they're really into the sealed and doing those types of events. And man,
Mm,
it was the first time I played sealed last weekend. It was a lot of fun. Like, it
mm,
was cool how you opened the packs, and I was surprised too because I thought there was going to be a lot of decision making, but I don't think that there was because literally, like, you just have your piles, right? You have the generic pile, and then you put the class piles, and you basically just like pick whatever class you want. You basically use all those cards and then you put it in the generic pile and then you're done. I mean, of course, there's maybe a 5 to 6 card differential where you could pick which one you want in or out. But overall, I
mm,
feel like the amount of decision making in sealed is not as much, especially in versus like draft, where you get
mm.
to pick amongst a bunch of cards and then build deck like that. But to not ramble on and keep on topic, like Crucible War, you could not do sealed with that. So do you think
Yeah.
that they're gonna change that up and make a supplemental product where you can do like the sealed format?
Um, I think the current formula they've got is pretty good.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're missing sealed and draft, but I think there needs to be that sort of smaller set in between the bigger ones to help give support to existing classes. And I think that's where most of any reprints are going to come from. Like
Mm.
the first, I guess, proper reprint we got was in Crucible of War, and that was the Spring Tunic, which was
Oh
awesome. It
yeah,
it made a very popular card way more
Krunic.
accessible to people who needed it. Yeah, the Krunic. Yeah. So I think supplemental sets are almost, for those of you guys who are watching that play Magic, these supplemental sets are almost kind of like the core sets that you get from Magic. So they can still be very exciting, but they have good core support for existing classes, and it's a space where they can freely reprint stuff without feeling like every single card needs to be brand new. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good thing to have for sure. So
So Kale, in an hour and 20 minutes now, you're gonna be opening some Monarch. What are you hoping for, man? What do you want to pull?
I don't know.
Be as greedy as you want.
Obviously, I'd love Fable, but
Yeah.
I got extremely lucky with Crucible of War. So I mean, I'm not really one to believe in like luck or fate or anything. So whatever I get, I get. It's just whatever happens. But I really want the Phantasmal Footsteps for Illusionist because I really want to try Illusionist. She seems really fun. In fact, her character design and almost everything about her is very, very similar to my D&D character I've got. Down to like the class that they are. My D&D character's an illusionist,
That's
has the
crazy.
same haircut, same hair color. It's crazy. So I really like illusionist, and I want to really try get some really good cards for her, so I can build that deck.
Hmm.
But outside of that, I don't know. I'll take anything really.
That's cool, man.
Just something I know that I can use, or at the very least, a card that is useful to someone else, so I can trade with them.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, it's whatever I get served is what I get served, and I'll gladly lap it up.
Are you gonna play
So,
Illusionist in like future tournaments, you think?
oh, I'll definitely try.
Yeah.
I'll make it work. I've already made a deck list on FabDB. I don't know how good it is because obviously I haven't been able to try it, but I'm gonna try it out, see how it goes. I think the play style was something I've really been craving. I wanted more like instant shenanigans. I had
Yeah.
been thinking about somewhat recently making a wizard deck, and then now that Illusionist got spoiled and she can do stuff at instant speed, I'm like, I'm gonna go for her instead.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just like the different decision making that you have to make with Illusionist, and it's I don't want to say it's more complex, but the decisions that you have to make are definitely quite different to other decks that I play. Like I play my main bread and butter is like aggro rune blade where it's just lots of attacks and lots of arcane damage coming at you.
Mhm.
And illusionist is just like the polar opposite of it.
Yeah.
It's big attacks. Normally one big attack. You're preventing damage. You're doing things at instant speed. So yeah, I'm curious to try out illusionist especially, but yeah, I'll try anything. I mean, I got sent a chain blitz deck by LSS as part of my preview card thing because Lord Sutcliffe is in the deck.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so yeah, they sent me that and a Eclipse playmat. So I kind of have to try out Chain because he is a Runeblade, and I love Runeblade. So he plays a lot differently to Viscera. He's not making rune chants and stuff. So I'll definitely give it a try. I mean, I did get that Shadow of Ursa Majestic card, so I'm already part way there. Yeah,
Oh,
it's only one.
nice.
I'm part way there, and I've got the Blitz deck. So yeah, we'll see.
It
How about you?
seems
What are you excited for?
Oh, I don't know what I'm excited for. There are a couple good Bravo cards that I would definitely wanna, like, put in my deck.
Mm,
Um, I did like Prism. I didn't think I was gonna like Prism, and it's cool to. I think I would want to make a Prism deck in the future. That I think you could definitely do some weird shenanigan things, like you said, and you probably make some like really like janky kind of weird like combo esque thing with her, and
mm,
that would be pretty cool. But what I really like about it is like if you have a card in your soul, you pitch two blue cards, and you can like make the token, attack with the token for 4, go again, and then you can come in with another attack. So if you can hit,
mm,
which would, come in for like 7 or something, right? So if you can do like 11 damage out and they block with everything in their hand, you can like keep on pumping it out. Like you can,
yeah.
then on your next turn, attack with 4, go again, and then, big swing, big swing. I think she's really powerful. I mean,
Mm.
there's a lot going on. But ultimately, maybe Shadow Brute, maybe I'd be interested in that. I definitely want to try to do a deck where you summon one of those big like creatures. That would be a lot of
Oh
fun.
yeah,
I mean, it seems very
definitely.
hard to do, but it seems like a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
That's the cool thing because as I was saying about the rarer cards in like games like Magic, the rarer cards initially were designed to be cards that have interesting mechanics,
Mm,
but not necessarily necessary. And I think the new legendaries, Doomsday and Eclipse, are perfect examples of that because they're really rare,
mm.
but they're so fun to play because they can be good, but you really have to build around them. And is the payoff worth it? Well, that's up to the person to decide, and that's what makes the cards really fun to chase after. Is not only their rarity, but also the fact that they have such a cool effect that you want to play the card. Just like the shapeshifter.
Oh
That's why she's
yeah.
so popular. So
And even though it's really powerful, to get it out is like huge. I mean, what with Levia, you have to have like 6 blood debt in in your bandage zone. And if you do that wrong, then you're gonna take like 5 or 6 damage every turn. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if anyone can pull that off in a tournament. I'd really love to see someone try to do that.
Oh yeah, that would be so clutch. And yeah, attacking
Mm.
with because it's a 0 attack, right? And does it have go again or no? I don't think so.
Um. Oh, that's actually a good point. I think.
I
I
want to
think
say no.
Ursa. I think Ursa has go again under a
Or
certain condition,
oh yeah, if
but
you're versing like a light hero or something.
mm, but yeah, I think they attack for free. They attack for 6. They have 6 health. Um, so yeah, it'll be just so interesting to see how people respond to seeing that summoned onto their opponent's side of the field and
Yeah.
just being like, "Do I attack this thing and get it out the way, or what? Can I do it?" Because you can't block on behalf of the ally; they just take the damage. So
Oh yeah, you're
yeah,
right. No, it that is going to be quite a decision because yeah, do you go for that thing or do you just try to go face and just kill your opponent before they can utilize their creature? But
mm,
it's crazy, man. Just all the cards
yeah,
in the set, and I'm just really looking forward to tournaments. I don't know if I'm gonna rock a new hero. I imagine like most people are gonna try to do that. Use the new hero that they get and play it
mm,
out. But I think too, like I think Ira will probably still be really popular and all the base ones, which is good. I like how the old heroes that are a lot simpler, but just have been around for a while are still relevant currently.
mm,
Hopefully, I can't say for
yeah,
sure,
hopefully.
but yeah,
Yeah,
man,
I
it's
wanna I want to
Wow.
try a Benji deck with Minnowism because the low cost
Oh,
tax and stuff, and they'll get in for free. So I might have to make a jank list for that. But I just love how like you said, new cards they make older heroes. They make you go back and look at them. So
I didn't think about that, dude. That would be an insane deck. And I love that, what is it? Minnowism and Belittle. That
mm,
combo is so good, especially because if you get a Minnowism that is like a three pitch, like that's huge. Then you have like a three pitch card. I mean,
mm,
it's a
yeah,
really good combo.
it's interesting to see what people will come up with the new meta. I love it whenever a meta shakes up. It stops things from being stale. So
Oh yeah. Was there anything else you wanna plug at the end or ask me? I know you have you're opening your
uh,
Monarch boxes, man. That's huge. I haven't gotten any of mine yet. I think they're in shipping, but I'm gonna do my best not to open them myself because I think a couple of them I want to like trade off. I also want to have one man in like an acrylic case. I thought that would be really cool to put like on a bookshelf, but I'm worried though because I don't know if I like have the like fortitude to not open it. But personally, man, I can't wait. But yeah, is there anything else you wanted to say
um,
before we wrap it up?
yeah, this is I guess in a way kind of a new era for Dead Summer Art. I now have to make every video animated, or people are not going to be as happy.
You know where the bar is, man.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, expect some obviously new types of content. Last time I talked to you, I talked about wanting to do animated content, and now that seems a lot more within reach for me to do. So expect that. A few people have also talked about if I'm ever going to do anything like my own custom playmat or merch. I
Mhm.
have thought about it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So if I do end up doing that, I'll let you guys know. I'm definitely thinking about it. Um, but yeah, other than that, I'm down to collaborate with more people. I've been reaching out to more people. So if anyone who's watching this, if you want to collaborate with me, hit me up. I'm friendly. I'll talk to you in the DMs.
You're a very
But
friendly
yeah,
person.
yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm down to just chat with people. Even if people want to play a game with me, just hit me up. I'm always down. So
It's nice, man, and
yeah,
I'm looking forward to your new stuff. Are you gonna make like Monarch videos soon, or are you waiting for that lore book? Because it's tough. Like
definitely.
you were waiting for like well, I mean, I guess you have like the hero bios, like that's one thing,
Mm.
but what do you think you're gonna cover? And you don't have to spoil too
Um,
much. I'm just
my
prying.
next video that I'm working on, which is kind of public knowledge, is originally I was going to do, and I think I talked to you about it last time. I was going to start a series called The Story So Far, and it was going to cover everything from Welcome to Wraith up to Crucible of War.
Hmm.
Because of life and how things happened, obviously I
I
didn't
feel
end
you
up
there.
finishing that video, but I'm going to combine it and change it to The Story So Far Monarch, and I'm going to talk about the story leading up to Monarch. But I'm also going to break down every event in Flesh and Blood history that we've seen so far, and I'm going to put it on a timeline so you can see. Oh, the test that Kano did when he was younger happened at this time during this other hero's life. So these things might have, connected up. The disturbance in the Aether coincided with this event with this other hero. So I'm digging deep on this one. It's going to take a lot of research. I've already done, like a survey I've sent out. Like,
I
I
completed
asked,
it. Did it the
oh,
other
you
day.
did?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was asking people, how old do you think the heroes look in each of their cards? So I can sort of gauge how old a hero is and put on the timeline. So yeah, that's my next big project. That should be the next video coming out. I just have to obviously finish all the research and get it out. But yeah, there's a lot more things that I'm looking at doing, and I'm trying to get more content out than beforehand because the past couple months I slacked a little bit just due to life. But
Well, you've been making a
expect
lot
more.
of content, and especially because you made a couple videos for Channel Fireball too. And dude, those are
Mm.
freaking long. Like if you did
Yeah.
not know anything about the Flesh and Blood lore, and you like watched a couple of those videos, like then you're like, oh, yep, now I know it. Like
Mm.
it was no, they were really well thought out, and no, I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that survey. I put like Data Doll is like 8 years old, like because you don't know, it's a
She
robot.
probably is. But one last thing that I do want to shout out. For those of you who are interested, you may have seen a video that I've done before where I talked about the Card Merchant Cancer Society charity event. I will be participating in that. It's an international event where you can play through webcam and TTS. It's for a good cause. Kale McCreath, a very well-known player in the community, his father passed away recently from cancer. And Matt Rogers and Nick Butcher decided to get the community together to do a big tournament with a bunch of prizes, a bunch of money going to charity. It's a really good cause, so if you're interested in playing it, by all means, have a look at the info. You may even verse me. And yeah, it's a good cause. You can get some really cool prizes. There's like one-of-a-kind prizes that are being put up. One-of-a-kind playmat from LSS signed by everyone.
Wow, that's
I know
huge.
Alan, who is like the organized play manager, he got a custom card. It was a custom hero card for his daughter, and they only printed a couple. Beatrice, Eager Adventurer, I think it was called, and he's actually giving away one of those, and they're
Wow,
like one of five maybe. So
that's
if you're
great.
interested in any of that, you can get first edition Monarch boxes as well. They're being put up. It's for a great cause. If you're interested, by all means, sign up, and I look forward to seeing whoever joins. Yeah, on the tabletop. So
That's a great event. I gotta get involved in that. That's really cool. I didn't
mm,
know that they were giving away like some crazy rare cards, and
yeah,
that's
lots
nuts.
of people are putting stuff up either for auction or as random prizes or for the winner. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. So even regardless of the fact that it's for charity and whatnot, it's just a good event in general. Even
Yeah,
if this was just a regular event, I would still be like, hell yeah, sign me up.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
It sounds
just
like a
wanted to
lot of
give that a
fun, man.
shout out, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Well, good luck on all your polls and Monarch, man. I hope you
Thank you.
get the Fable. I mean, if you did get the Fable, $10,000 or however much it is, would you
I
sell
will
it?
let you know within like a minute of me opening it. So
Please do.
I'll take a photo. I'll be like, Bronson, Bronson.
Be like, yeah, you did it. And then you gotta keep it, man, because I mean, you really like
Oh
Prism,
yeah, I'm
right?
not selling those.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Put in a
So
locked deposit box. Well, great talking to you, Kale, as always.
yeah,
I consider you a
fantastic.
really good friend, man. It's
Yeah,
always
same.
great to talk, and it's just crazy to just go on this wild ride. And we talked what is it, like 4 months ago, and just so
Mm.
much has happened, man. It's great being along with you, man.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yep. Talk soon.
No worries.
Cheers.